Whenever effective taxation is discussed, one argument shows up more than any other. If we tax the rich, they'll just leave.
The claim is simple. Raise taxes, and wealthy people will move, taking money, businesses, and jobs with them.
And if they leave, we don't just lose future revenue, we might even lose the taxes they already paid.
This fear of tax flight has referred globally, from the UK to New York, with headlines predicting a wealthy exodus. But before we panic, we should ask a quieter question. If a few rich people leave, is that automatically disastrous? High-profile departures get attention because they're dramatic, memorable, and easy to turn into a warning. The argument implies a delicate balance. Push taxes too far, and revenue might shrink instead of grow.
Economists describe this idea with a relationship between tax rates and tax revenue, often summarized by the Laffer Curve.
At very low rates, revenue is low. As rates rise, revenue rises too, until a point where pushing higher can reduce total revenue. But the curve alone doesn't tell you where a country actually sits, and that's where this debate often goes wrong.
Tax cut advocates usually claim we're already on the far side, meaning lower rates would raise revenue by boosting growth.
The problem is that this story isn't strongly supported by most real-world evidence.
Large cross-country research has found most developed economies are still on the side where raising top rates would increase revenue.
In some places, that gap appears larger, not just because rates are lower, but because wealth is structured in particular ways.
And even then, maximizing revenue isn't the only purpose of a tax system. Policy also shapes incentives and supports households. Sometimes lower taxes can offer broad relief, and sometimes higher taxes can fund services people rely on every day.
The biggest mistake is assuming rich people choose where to live by sorting countries by tax rates and leaving the moment a bill arrives.
For most people, even high earners, life decisions are anchored by relationships, opportunity, and lifestyle, not just tax savings.
In fact, places with higher taxes have often seen strong wealth growth over time, even after accounting for some wealthy migration.
Take New York. People have predicted a rich exodus for decades, yet the number of millionaire earners has continued to grow.
Yes, some people use technical tricks, commuting, second homes, and day count rules, but those extreme cases are rare.
For most wealthy workers, the opportunity inside major hubs is worth more than the tax savings gained by leaving them. But there are exceptions, and to understand them, we need to look at what happened in places like the UK and parts of California. So it's time to learn how money works, and whether taxing the rich really triggers a damaging exodus, or just a convenient myth.
For decades, the UK positioned itself as a magnet for global wealth, offering financial access, stability, and favorable treatment.
This strategy worked, but it can with unintended consequences for housing, markets, and everyday life.
An influx of global wealth helped drive up property prices, placing pressure on local communities.
London's financial system also became a conduit for questionable money flows that added little productive value. Some jobs were created, but many revolved around servicing wealth rather than building broadly shared prosperity.
Over time, regulators began closing loopholes and demanding more accountability from parked wealth.
As conditions changed, some wealthy individuals did move their money and residency elsewhere. Much of that wealth flowed to places offering what London once did: low taxes, light scrutiny, and high-end amenities.
This reveals a key lesson. Competing to be the cheapest bidder for mobile wealth is a losing strategy.
Even if you win that race, the prize is temporary and easily lost.
Meanwhile, wealth built locally behaves very differently from wealth imported for convenience.
Homegrown wealth is far less likely to leave because it's tied to people's lives, networks, and identity. Even during periods of outward migration, the total number of wealthy residents often continues to grow.
The United States illustrates this effect even more clearly because so much wealth is anchored to domestic institutions.
Leaving can mean losing access to markets, systems, and opportunities that generate wealth in the first place.
Research suggests that even significantly higher top tax rates would not trigger mass departures.
A small number might leave, but most would simply adjust and continue operating where they are. Out of tens of millions of millionaires worldwide, annual migration represents a statistical rounding error.
And not all movement is about taxes. People relocate for many personal and geopolitical reasons. Where mass wealth flight does occur, it usually follows deeper institutional instability, not tax changes alone.
The real economic loss in these situations is skilled people, not piles of money.
Money can be replaced, but human expertise is mobile and extremely hard to rebuild.
From an economic standpoint, many moderately wealthy contributors matter more than a handful of ultra-rich individuals.
Strong economies are built on widespread opportunity, not dependence on the most mobile capital.
So the fear of taxing the rich often distracts from the real question: what kind of economy are we trying to protect?
California shows how deeply wealth can be tied to institutions rather than tax rates alone.
During the rise of remote work, many people believed this institutional gravity had finally weakened.
Cities like Austin experienced explosive growth as workers and companies relocated.
But much of that growth was built on the assumption that the inflow would never stop.
As offices reopened and priorities shifted, institutional centers began pulling people back.
Places that boomed fastest also felt the sharpest corrections.
This revealed how fragile growth can be when it depends on highly mobile workers.
Much of America's wealth remains anchored to deep institutional ecosystems.
Leaving these ecosystems often means sacrificing opportunity rather than just saving on taxes.
Even substantial tax changes tend to produce only modest behavioral responses. The people who do leave attract attention precisely because they are unusual.
Media coverage magnifies these stories, making rare events feel like sweeping trends.
Meanwhile, the vast majority of economic life continues largely unchanged. In most cases, total wealth keeps growing, even as a small number of individuals leave.
What matters more than raw capital is who is actually creating value on the ground.
Broad-based prosperity depends on people who build, innovate, and participate locally.
When countries truly suffer from capital flight, it's usually because institutions have already failed.
The most damaging loss is human capital, not money.
Skills and expertise are portable and far harder to replace than financial assets.
Stable institutions keep talent in place, even as policies evolve.
From a growth perspective, many contributors matter more than a few extremes.
Economic resilience comes from diversity, not dependence on the most mobile wealth.
So the fear of taxing the rich often distracts us from deeper structural questions.
The real issue isn't whether a few people leave, but what kind of economy remains behind.
Because strong economies aren't built to please the most mobile capital, but to support everyone else.
When we strip away the headlines The fear of rich people leaving looks far less dramatic than it's made out to be.
A small number of wealthy individuals may relocate, but the economy does not collapse because of it.
Strong institutions matter far more than keeping the most mobile wealth satisfied. Long-term prosperity comes from investing in people, infrastructure, and opportunity. Tax policy is just one tool, and it works best when aligned with a broader economic strategy. Economies grow strongest when wealth is built broadly, not concentrated narrowly.
The real risk isn't taxing the rich, but designing an economy that depends on them too heavily.
Resilient economies are built to support millions of participants, not a handful of exceptions. So the next time you hear that taxing the rich will drive them all away, remember how rarely that actually happens.
Because understanding how money really works means looking past fear and focusing on what truly sustains an economy.